Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's January 24th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and a lot of movement today. We started off with this uptrend. We had a channel working higher. Once we go sideways, you have to be aware that you can. This is a little bit steep here, so when you got to expect that you possibly will go sideways. So you draw this other channel, and it looks very valid. But notice what happens when prices get back to it. They don't confirm it and go higher, they keep going down. So you know then that basically you got a break of this trend line working up right here. You get a break, a couple of legs up to a new high, and then it sells off. So, um, but you had to be a little bit leery of any shorts until you went through here and proved that you had a trend working lower. And so just be aware of that. And then of course we're coming down, and of course just like going up, this is way too steep right here. A 45 angle's a little bit more healthy, and so when we come out of this one, it doesn't surprise me that we just kind of flatten out slightly as we work lower, um, and then we reverse and go higher again. And believe it or not, the market closed at around we closed yesterday around 28.39, and we closed today around 28.41. So with all that movement, we still closed up a couple of points for the day even after that big sell-off. So rather interesting. This is probably just some more consolidation of the big move up. We're still well above 2,800, and we just blew through that a few days ago, it seems like. So, but yeah, you got to be a little careful getting short, and then you really want to know you got a trend going up before you start getting long here. You want to make sure this correction is over, but really it looks like this trend coming down. We get a break, couple legs to a new low, but even with this one you get the overshoot, so that gives you a good idea that we're probably going higher from there. Um, so let's back out, talk about the trades. I'm going to back on out here to get where this is viewable really. And there weren't a whole, there's not a lot of really great entries today, but just about every one had a runner. And so you only needed a trade or two with a runner to really make some money today. So it's always nice when you get those kind of days. But let's talk about the trades. Again, we were working up, and this bounce right here pretty much confirms this trend line. You got your first two swings. You really get it confirmed down here, but this is all overnight stuff, and this is more sideways. So really, you want to probably see another bounce. When I came in, the 7 o'clock hour is with all this moving up through here, so there's not really a good way to enter that. And then when we come out of it, where do you expect prices to go? Back to the other side. And so that's where you're really looking for your entry. And we just start working sideways here. But the good thing about working sideways like that in an uptrend on a correction means we're probably going to go higher. And so that's giving you some clues that we're probably going to go a little higher, and it may be just an uptrend day. So that's what we're looking for at this point. But you start going sideways, and you just need to stay out of that. It's too tight. You just get whipsawed. Wait and see if you get a failed break lower, or till we get over here and you get a setup off the trend line, which that comes right here. We actually get a failed break lower out of that little range, and it bounces right at the trend line. And believe it or not, that's a second entry long. Notice that high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So it's a second entry long. It's a failed breakout of the congestion small trading range. It's a bounce off a key entry point, the main trend line that's set up early in the morning and the overnight, really yesterday afternoons. That's when that's set up. And so that's where you want to get in there. And it does come back and give you a second entry long right here. And at the very minimum, you would look for it to try to make a new high, and or another measured leg up like that one. As you can see, this thing took off. But really what I was expecting was that we'd find a flatter channel. I was surprised when we sold off like this, to be honest with you. But we were overdue for a correction. So, so as surprising as it was, it's not really out of the ordinary either. So I just figured we'd find a flatter channel, more of a 45-degree angle like this, and we'd probably keep going for the day. Because this looks like a pretty nice trend. So you got two nice entries early on, and this one you catch a runner. And you actually notice there's a new low right there. So there's a first entry, and so it's a failed second entry short. It's a breakout pullback long. Um, it actually goes lower and turns and goes out the other side. So you got to go long at the high. So I made it green, but I still like that trade. Generally, your better setups are going to come around the EMA on corrections back to the EMA, though. And then, of course, if you draw this trend line and drag it to the top, we start turning down right off that. So now you're looking for prices to come back to the key entry point again. And we're just kind of going sideways. I don't think you want to risk any shorts, even though you could probably argue for that one. There's not much room back down to these lows. It's just another trading range. Well, I didn't really want to draw that big line. And you can see that's just another range. And so I really thought maybe we'd get a key or a repeat pattern where it'd come across, and it is a repeat pattern to a degree, but you don't get back down to the trend line, and that's why I don't have a long in here. And plus, notice you're going sideways more here than you turn straight back up here, where here you just kind of going sideways. So it's really suspect. You want to see it come back to the trend line, and so I don't like any of those entries right in there. I'm more tempted to enter here on one of these shorts than anything, but you don't have enough room. This is a failed second entry long right here, but you don't have enough room to get out before you're back down to the trend line. And so if it's going to bounce there, which is kind of what you're expecting to happen, you can't enter there. And so, but instead it turns down, and then look what happens. It comes back to that trend line. You get a first entry, then it goes higher. And if you draw your little short-term trend line in there, I don't have it on there. You can see you get a little move outside. It's so close, it's hard to tell. But then it pushes higher and it turns down. And look how bearish that bar is. This really should be. Oops. This really should be over that bar right there. That's a pretty big bar. So what you might do is really when it breaks lower here, you might drop a limit order and see if it comes back. You really want to wait till this finishes, but it's a second entry when it breaks below this bar right here. And the fact that it got through the EMA so quickly and comes back and gives you a second entry, I like entering there. At that point, I'm really not looking for a big sell-off still. I'm just thinking, hey, you're going to get a two-legged correction, so look for your next leg, something like that. And that does put you back down in here where we had some support earlier, but man, this thing just rockets on. So if you catch that second entry, you don't need anything but one runner, and you could have ridden this thing all the way down. And then notice what happens. It come down here, it bounces. You got another short-term trend line here. It's really kind of coming up like that. You kind of work outside with a close. There's a second entry right here, but that bar is too neutral. So, but it is right off a key entry point. You could argue for that one. It's not, I'll make it green, but I was a little leery of it because it's not a perfect signal bar. But it is right at the key entry point. It is a second entry. It is fairly bearish. It's just not an ideal signal bar. But by being patient, it shoots down, pulls back, and it actually goes higher here and then turns. Now you got a lower high. You still got plenty of room to get out. You got a big bearish bar, and you actually get a failed second entry long right here. This one's going short right into that low, but you're not even back down to the midline yet. You got this big move here. At this point, since we way overshot the first one, first I'm going to look for a measured move down here similar to that one. But if it keeps going further, I'm going to look for a measured move like that right there. And you can see we got that exactly to the tick. So you're still looking for some more down movement. So I like this one right here. You're not quite down to the overnight lows either. And at that point, I figure we're going to at least test those. And It's coming down. You actually get another pull back here right at the key entry point. It's very neutral bar. I made it green, but I really don't like it. I'll be honest with you. The only reason I marked it because it is at the key entry point, and we are now at this point we're looking for a measured leg like this one. You've actually got enough room to really get out before those lows there. So, but I'll be honest, I would skip that one. I really don't even want to mark it green, but I did. But it's suspect, so just I'd say skip that one. Then we bounce. At this point, where would you expect prices to go? Um, Back up here. This is the first break of this main trend line. You probably you wouldn't have this two-tier channel yet. You might have drawn a trend line off those closes, and but it wouldn't have it really wouldn't have fit properly here. So you wouldn't have had this line, this trend line, until you got these two bars here. But so you're playing the main channel, but that's the first break of it. So you're just waiting on this little correction to play out, and then you want to try to get short again. So notice what happens. We're working up. You finally get a break, move to a new high, and then you make a double top or a lower high with another bearish bar. That's where you go short. I really thought it would take off again, but it comes back and it tries to go higher 3 more times and fails. Um, I like going short. You really could have almost gone short below this bar, but it's so big. It is a second entry. It's right into those kind of lows there. But when it tries to come up one more time and makes a little higher low, I like going ahead and getting in there. And where are you looking for prices to go? To the other side. So you got a channel trend line, a little short-term channel working down. You get your break. That's a first entry. Then you try to go higher, and those two matching lows makes that a second entry short basically. It's not very bearish. There's a lot of stem there, but you are looking for prices to go to the low, and you could treat that like a failed second entry long because this is basically a double top up here. So you're coming down and you try to go higher once, twice, and then that would be your third time. So it's not an ideal third failed second entry long, but again, you're looking for prices to come down here. So you're just looking for a reason to enter. It's been pretty bearish. But again, that's not a great setup. I'd probably skip it. It's kind of in the middle there in no man's land near the midline. So you probably skip that one. But notice what happens. You hit the low, you make another low, and then you start working up. But notice you're working up. You finally get a little close outside, move to a new high, a fairly bearish bar. We've already come off the lows, so you're kind of looking for prices to come to the highs. So I'm not crazy about that one, but that's a nice bearish bar. It does, we have fulfilled this little move up. It is near the midline where you may see another push down. And you don't know that it's going to take off like that. You're just trying to really get a scalp out of it. But it does. It takes off. And now we get an overshoot. So, hey, we'll probably reverse. It's tempting to want to go long right here. But notice what would happen if you went long there. You'd have probably got burned. You tried it again here. You got burned. And you finally do get a little double bottom. That's your higher low. But then there's not much room between that EMA. And it could turn down again. So it could be this is really a bigger midline and you're going to have another measured move. So you can't rule that out at this point. So wait on your reversal pattern, which comes right here on your failed second entry short. Notice your low, first entry, second entry. But we're not back to the EMA. We're not back to what looks like a trend line working up through there. So that makes this one a little suspect, although you do have a shorter term trend line and it is back to it. And you are looking for prices to come back to the high. We're way overdue to come back to the main trend line up here. So and we do have the overshoot, which tells you, hey, we may get a reversal here. So if you catch one of these moves, you may be able to ride it on up. And that's exactly what would have happened, but you got to be careful gambling. So I made this one green. It's a first entry. It's close to the highs. It's right into the EMA, the midline. And we push on through and notice how there's no resistance there at the trend line at all. Of course, you expect it to come back and try to test it, but it comes back and it bounces right off the trend line. But again, it's a first entry. Um, it is a nice bullish bar. It's not back to the EMA though, but it is holding on this trend line. So you might consider entering there. But again, it's not a great setup. It's a little bit aggressive. Okay, I stopped the video to try to clear my throat there. My throat's really starting to bother me again with all this talking, and I accidentally, instead of pausing it, I stopped it, and so I'm gonna have to piece in this last part. There were only a couple of trades left, but I'm gonna have to piece them in now. So anyway, I'm gonna try to get through this and wrap this up and get through this week, and hopefully next week I don't feel bad, but just when I start talking, my throat really bothers me here. So. But anyway, we were left off on this trade. We're still talking about this trade. It's a little aggressive, but we're still moving up. There's another bounce off the trend line. Again, I'm not going to, it's just too aggressive. Wait on you're going to get a correction soon, and you'll get a second entry long. And look what you finally get a high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry long right there. There's your entry you're waiting on. It actually ticks lower and gives you another opportunity to a third chance to get in, or you could add on there and it takes off again. You wouldn't have got a whole lot out of this, but it gives you two legs. Now you got to break two legs up, and what do you expect to happen? A correction. And you actually get this little spike in channel kind of thing here. It really just spikes down and goes into a range more than anything, but you can't argue that there's not a little bit of a spike in channel right there too. Looks like it's two-tiered actually, but it's more sideways action than anything. And you can see that there's a little two-tiered channel there. And you get a break, move to a new low, and guess what? It reverses again, only to sell off once more. So anyway, this is all after the 2 o'clock hour. It doesn't matter anyway. So this is why you just be patient. Don't risk something here. Even though you would have got another scalp right there, you still get the same trade here and you get more than a scalp out of it. You get a runner out of it. So if you're just patient, generally you'll come back. And a lot of times, even though every one of these trades on a nice bar off the trend line worked, eventually you're going to get burned on one probably, and it's not worth trying to risk it. So yeah, again, nice uptrend, then a big sell-off, and then it reversed again, and we took most of it back, and we ended up closing up a couple of points before the day was over, which is kind of hard to believe, but we did. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just having a hard time talking here, and we'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. But I'm done for the day. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.